Another landmarks, if I can see the pelvis for a moment. Another landmarks that you want to be aware of is ISIS, this. So if you look into his pelvis, this will be that point. Yeah, and the reason why you want to find it is because one of the major flexor in the body is Iliacus. And Iliacus sits into the ilium, runs through the pelvis, and it attaches to the lesser trochanter into the femur bone. So when we go into traumatic event and we go into freeze, when the event is overstimulating, we go into freeze. But what it does in our physical body, the major flexor means the major core muscle that take part into movement, because it flexes the leg and lifts the leg. So every time you dance, you move, you run, you actually mobilize the iliacus. And in a shock, in a disassociation, the core freezes. So we cannot move, we cannot make a step. So that is the first muscles that get interrupted and frozen. So in this place, the ilium is where you can find Iliacus. So that's where you can find Iliacus, and also manually So you need to be a little bit like softer and slower. I was a bit too fast.
It's very sensitive.
It can be sensitive area, yeah. So, and then you trace down all this area of the ilium, yeah. And you can really like sink in your fingers, and you can do it through the clothes also. And you will feel like very strong tissue fiber that's like big muscle, thick muscle. Yeah, major flexor. I used to show also psoas, but I'm not showing psoas because it's too complicated and it requires like bodywork training. It's like one day to understand it, like how to touch it. It is kind of part of the iliopsoas. So the psoas goes in, connects with the iliacus, and they create like one formation. But if you open iliacus, it will affect psoas as well.
So you grab a little bit under the pelvis?
Yeah, so you kind of hook under, you hook under and then you kind of clear up with your fingertips all this area. Yeah, and again, be sensitive, look the body language, not recommended during the period, during pregnancy obviously, otherwise you can really clear up all this area. And if people like in the session, when somebody starts moving their feet, that means usually there is flight or fight activated and they want to complete, most likely, the interrupted fight or flight from traumatic event. So you encourage that movement slowly and let them feel that they move their feet and then encourage to kind of bring awareness to that movement.
Then do you put your hand and let it move naturally, or you still support it?
Yeah, you let it go naturally until it's connected. If it gets disconnected, you support them to slow down. Yeah, when it goes too fast or automatic, then bring how does it feel in your pelvis? Right. Ooh. So, and you do it on both sides. So you go on the other side and do also iliacus.
Parallel or one after the other?
One after the other. So do a little bit on one side, go on the other side, and kind of, just find a place of tension. And you can, I can stay and you can start moving your pelvis slightly to the side. Yeah, engage iliacus. Great. So now he's engaging, you will feel contraction of the muscle under your fingers and then it, yeah. Great with the movement, nice. Oh, yeah, nice. Is it okay?
Yeah, you can do harder.
Yeah. Should dig in here.
Oh.
Oh. But be really mindful, like slow, listen, ask what's the pressure. And again, pelvic work is like you try to follow with what's happening in the session instead of like, oh, now I have to do this, then I have to do this. Other things that sometimes you could do on the pelvis is working on adductors. So relax. So there might be some position where they just start like moving their legs. So we just adduct the leg, meaning like you bring thigh out. And what it does, it creates this opening here to adductors. Those are major muscles that run, 5 muscles that run into the inner thigh, connecting to, some of it connecting to pubic bone, some of it connecting to ischium. Basically what the muscles are for, they adduct the legs. So very often I observe people very tight here. That creates also closing in the pelvis. One, there is somehow like this collective, like if you go to corporation and you see how people are sitting in the meeting, especially women, yeah, closed legs, or sometimes double closed leg. Like if you sit this way for hours, you create tremendous tension here. In a way, this is also protection mechanism, like, and sometimes people with sexual trauma have that pattern of like closing sexuality this way. Yeah,
Like this?
yeah, like closed legs. Yeah. So if you sit like this for hours, what it does, it shortens all this area. So this is a powerful way to open adductors and open the pelvis. Yeah, an opening, and then you can squeeze here. All the way. When you come closer to groin, you have to be more careful because those attachments are kind of like a stringy, like you don't want to press too much on it. And obviously, you never touch genitals, so just just close enough to open the groin, but you don't want to be on the genitals. Either men or women, of course. And just that opening can be very challenging for some people. So breathe into this opening, yeah. Let it open, let the breath comes in. Because it can be very vulnerable position for many people. So just that is super intense. And if you attach, it's really deep.
And can you do like butterfly ones? Do it at the same time?
You could do like this also, like have somebody like really open, yeah. Both legs, it's also okay. Alright, and move it down. And sometimes people go in the session on the side, and then if somebody like kind of breathe and they go on the side, you have a really nice way to work with all the rotators. Yeah, those are big stabilizers coming from the hip joint, greater trochanter. Yeah, so that's the hip joint here, and around it you have many different rotators coming, connecting, stabilizing really hip joint. Yeah, it's a huge joint. And then it requires a lot of different muscle to stabilize. So you have stabilizers going in like gluteus medius, minimus. Then you have maximus obviously on the top of it, and then you have piriformis running towards the sacrum, and 3 other going like this. So kind of like it's a fan. You can imagine a fan, and that is the center, and all these rotators comes into the place around all this area.
Is this on the bone?
Huh?
Is it on this bone or is it next to the bone?
It's on the top of bone. All of them attach around the bone. So it's like a knob. It's like a knob. And then around this knob, there's many attachments. So this is a great idea. You can really sink into it, kind of like with your fist, and then move around. Yeah, just opening up those stabilizers. There's usually a lot of tension here. Yeah, so you're moving around, and then depends. For some people, it's more sensitive. For some people, it can like really drop. But the idea is to really kind of open, and that you can do it like few strokes here. When person goes on the side for a moment, or if that happens organically, and then you move into breath and you let it move. If you have a closed zone, you can just press also. Yeah.
What you did for me yesterday? This is what you
Well, I did Piriformis. I pressed here with elbow, so it was kind of yeah.
So it's good for people who sit too much?
Yeah, it's great. Sciatic nerve, like people if they suffer from sciatic nerve, like this is so good. Sitting, when you sit a lot, this will be all contracted, compressed. It's not enough strength there and flexibility. So you can just work like this. Then at some point, person might go and lay down on their belly in the breast. It happens sometimes, yeah, you see that. Or you ask them if you feel like you want to work on back. Like for a moment, you can also ask them to turn around, breathe, and you can sink in with your elbow. So what you need to find is the sacral bone here, the edge of the sacrum. This, and then greater trochanter, which is hip joint, and then you kind of like, and then you kind of all this area. This is all soft tissue. This is gluteus maximus, very like meaty, big muscle, and then underneath you have all these rotators. So don't be afraid to kind of go into this place. You can really go into the core with your elbow here, and this is what I've done with you yesterday.
But it hurt like hell.
Yeah. because it can. All the work with pelvis is also working with the releasing pain. It might be painful, but we work on the edge of good pain, like pain that is like, oh, it's painful, but it feels good. Dig in. Yeah, versus like pain that you cannot stand, like something is uncomfortable. It's different. And then you don't want that uncomfortable pain that is like killing you, but it's a good pain, like oh. Huh? Sweet pain, yeah.
I had a lot of energy last night.
Because that was open. And you scream, fuck off, Nisarga. So there now.
Okay, it was even recorded now.
I have it forever.
Yeah, we got it. It goes on YouTube. Right, so you can dig into here. It's nice to go into the core. Is okay for you? Yeah. This is good? Or yeah. And you, of course, then you go on both sides of that area, and then we can go into like legs also. Yeah, so you can squeeze legs for grounding, especially thighs. Very often lower back pain is because this area is tight. The hamstrings. Tightness in hamstrings create the shortening in rotators, stabilizers, and people suffers from lower back pain because there's not enough flexibility in lower back. This is all stiffening up, and then soft tissue contract on the pain receptors, resulting I feel pain here, and then you work on sometimes on the thighs, and the pain is gone from the lower back pain, or you work on the Piriformis or other stabilizers, and that reduces pain in the lower back and creates more mobility in the lower back.
So you wouldn't work directly with the lower back though?
Sometimes I do, but most often it's not a case of the pain. It's not local. It's not like people who suffer from lower back pain. Or neck pain, the issues in the feet, for example. Very often, 90% of cases, you see like how like there's no flexibility in the feet, and then whole posture gets like there's no movement over the time, creates tension. And the moment you start working with feet, you bring flexibility to the feet, whole posture gets more movement, more mobility. And then I would also work in bodywork locally to release tension from the soft tissue. But I would see where is the cause of it? What's the really like? What's behind that? And it's usually not local. The issue is not there. The issue is elsewhere. This is just result of something. And then turn around the back. And then we're going to spend in this session on the feet, and it's really important structure the feet. And very often lack of mobility. Like if you look how people walk, they lose mobility in the feet. You know, there's 26 bones here. Yeah, we're wearing shoes, we're not walking enough, and there's not enough mobility. And if you bring this opening in all these bones, somehow just like moving around, squeezing, just be creative with it. Like pulling out from the ankle joint, yeah. Rotating. Yeah, like maybe even toes, you can stretch the toes. Work on the soft tissue, just do whatever you can to bring some grounding into the foot. You can work with your knuckles. This is the softest fascia in the body, plantar fascia. And obviously it has to be strongest because we kind of whole weight is on it. The strongest, the thickest. Like very thick. Like almost centimeters thick. If you cut cadavers, you see like how thick, like sometimes even scalpel cannot cut it. Super thick. And then bring that mobility into the foot. Oh, and breathe into it. Yeah? So working on the feet in this session. And there's one point also like a trigger point around here. This kidney 1. So you find that kind of, you trace the toe, big toe, and then there's kind of like knob here, and you sink into this. Yeah. And it's straight away like activate your system. So people who disassociate, sometimes few of you already came and kind of pressed that. So you're coming in and you're kind of pressing into
So it's on the left down side of this big bone.
It's in the manual also. It's showing exactly where it is, but it's like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Come and see. Yeah, you see now? And press yourself to check. It's really activating, stimulating. How you feel? Yeah? So you can press this for a moment.
Live and kicking.
Huh?
Live and kicking.
Live and kicking. All right. Yeah. So feet are really important into grounding. They bring that awareness into the legs. Just squeezing maybe here.
Can you do some more intense body work? Like for example, if people lie on their belly, like kind of like with your knees, for example, on the butt and.
Yeah. I mean, I did quite intense already with your elbow. Was it enough? Yeah, you can do like if somebody feel it's okay.
Yeah.
Still, you can. It feels very good to sit. To sit with, like where I was with the elbow, you're sitting with your knees.
Yeah, exactly. Or even just on the here on the back of the leg.
Yeah, on the hamstring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To just kind of walk down on your knees.
Yeah, I can do. Just make sure in this session that the bodywork is kind of secondary. So don't become a bodywork. We're still breathing and going into all the concept. And adding bodywork whatever it needs to be done, depending how the session flows.
Sometimes when someone say harder,
Yeah.
I always think that they are numb.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so much pressure, but it's like when you cut off a little bit of your body. I mean, small women, they, you know,
Yeah.
give it to them and
Yeah.
they still don't feel anything.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's a good what you mentioned because and to be aware of it that some people will want deeper, but that is due to their disassociation. So basically, they don't feel. So you have to be careful because they don't sense their body, but they want to feel. So they guide you more, deeper, and then you follow that. But the physical body has resilience, and very easy you can just damage body. So don't always follow like, oh, go deeper, because you are already like on the edge of like, I don't know, breaking ribs, and they want to feel, and you are on the floating rib pressing on the QL, and then it's over, and that's easy to break, and then but that is because they don't feel, but they want to feel. And then sometimes you might have somebody who is very connected to their body, and they really like understand, and they really want to feel that core, and they know where is, and they're present with it, and then you can go all the way, like they guide you. So like finding like when the person won't feel deeper because they don't feel anything, versus person who really like is present and want to feel their core from that present state. So just acknowledge that it's not always the client guiding is good to go deeper. Sometimes they might actually go into softness of the touch.
What would you say to a client that wants that, and you can see like, okay, he's associated, he doesn't have that connection, would you try to...
I would try to guide them like, listen, let's work with less, I'm already quite deep, let's try to feel it. This is enough, you know. I don't want to break your bones, maybe even like this. And then bring this awareness to work with this more subtle touch. I would still go deep, but so they can feel it and guide them into like, what is the sensation of it? How do you record this in your body? Yeah. And yeah.
A little question. I have a question. Like sometimes when you really like start working on your body, it can feel like as a receiver pretty comfortable, and you can forget about this connected breathing. You know, really breathing connected. Should you like really follow and remind client or receiver to breathe while you are really working deep, especially when lying on the tummy on front. So it's quite important. Just still keep this connected deep.
Yeah. Whatever
you're doing.
You're doing body work, and it's still same with the breath, with the felt sounds. That's primary. Like it's better sometimes not to do body work and keep on breathing, and then have occasional touch, then get lost if all of what I showed you, and because then become body work, and that's not what we do. So primary, staying with the breath, and adding body work as a tool to open that area that are frozen, and release that tension and unwind that stuck energy, so it can travel throughout the spine, throughout the open channel.